here. 2022 has came. 2021 has to been the fastest and quickest year I have ever seen in my life. I don't know if it's like when we get older, you know what I mean? And, time just seems to go so fast because there's so many different things to do. There's so many things to concern yourself with or be worried about, per se. And when you're a kid, you're just really living. You're imagining things, you're creating things, you're taken care of or taken care of. And it's like there's no care in the world for real, for real. But, I guess when we get older, that seems to cease because we have to feed ourselves. We want to maintain a decent social life. We want to maintain and grow a romantic life. We want to grow in our respective fields and careers and businesses. So it's not enough time in a day, but we all still have the same 24. All right. So let's make sure that we are utilizing them properly in this new year. So happy new year to all of you all tapped in, from me to you and your family and friends. Okay. Just wanted to pop on real quick, and talk about a few things. I went to the movies recently and I saw a phenomenal film. All right. And this film, I love films and shows or series that are based on real life events, stuff that happened in real life. Because when I see some things like this, it helps me to know and understand, like, hey, this is also possible for myself. Like memoirs that I read, shows that I watch, movies that I watch, I can resonate with it because it's a real life situation. The movie that I did go see was Our Journal for Jordan with Michael B. Jordan. But before I tap into that, y'all, make sure you are starting the year with a decent read. Like, I picked this book up, God Bless Those Who Rest. When Bell Hooks passed away, really, I got this book 2 weeks before she passed away because I wanted to get more into her writings. I know a lot of people rave over James Baldwin, and he's a phenomenal writer. You know what I mean? I read a few of his essays, not really his books yet. I do have one of his books. I just haven't cracked it open yet. And I've seen a lot of his interviews. So the brother is immeasurably smart. Okay. But Bell Hooks, I got this book like 2 weeks before she passed. I learned of Bell Hooks, I want to say back in 2015, but never really tapped in for real. And this year, it's like, you know what? Let me get into her. And, unexpectedly, she passes away like 2 weeks later. So, again, God bless those who rest. This book is called All About Love. And it's not like one of those sappy books where everything is all romantic. Of course, she touches on romance, but then, like, I'm in chapter 8 right now, and this chapter is called Community Loving Communion. Okay, so she's talking about community, she's talking about family, she's talking about friendships, she's talking about even careers. All right, I want to actually tap into an excerpt of this and just share some of her great wisdom. Uh, and she talked about, if I want to see if I can find it before I just pick a random one. I want to see if I can find the one where she's talking about jobs and like being fulfilled. Um, let's see. I don't want to take too long, but I'll just pick one. So this one right here says, most of us did not learn when we were young that our capacity to be self-loving will be shaped by the work we do and whether that work enhances our well-being. This is actually the one I was looking for, so this is perfect. So let's go to the page before that. She said that she had to find like nighttime work because she wanted to enjoy her day. That was like an aha moment for me because I teach by day. And it's like I work better and create better during the day. So it's like, damn, like I need to figure out something that I can do at night so that my days can be free and my inner child can run wild. All right. So she said this. She said, my nighttime work helped me relish the quiet serenity of my day and enjoy the alone time so essential to writing. So, of course, she read over 40 books. So she did a lot of writing in her daytime, right? She said, Whenever possible, it is best to seek work we love and to avoid work that we hate. But sometimes we learn what we need to avoid by doing it, right? I've done a lot of jobs in my lifetime, and I've seen a lot of jobs that I need to avoid. All right. So she's saying that sometimes we actually have to do the thing in order to see if that's something that we need to avoid. Okay. She said that individuals who are able to be economically self-sufficient doing what they love are blessed. Their experience serves as a beacon to all of us, showing us the ways right livelihood can strengthen self-love, ensuring peace and contentment in the lives we lead beyond work. All right. Often, workers believe that if their home life is good, it does not matter if they feel dehumanized and exploited on the job. Many jobs undermine self love because they require that workers constantly prove their worth. Individuals who are dissatisfied and miserable on the job bring this negative energy home. Clearly, much of the violence in domestic life, both physical and verbal abuse, is linked to job misery. I had to highlight that. A lot of violence that we see in the home, a lot of this stuff stems from stuff on the job. It made me think about a lot of the times when folks come home, they take out a lot of things on their family or their spouse or whomever is in the household, and all of that is from an email that may have been sent earlier on the job, or a meeting that could have been an email that was frustrating because you missed your lunch because of a meeting, right? So yeah, she breaks down a lot. Oh, I do want to say this last part before I move on to the movie. She said, when we work with love, we renew the spirit. That renewal is an act of self love. It nurtures our growth. It's not what you do, but how you do it. So, all about perspective. Yo, start the year off with a good read. I ended 2021 going into the new year with this. I should be done with this book really this week. I'm in chapter 8 out of 13 chapters. So, yeah, I'll be done with that book and on to another book. But back to the movie at hand, A Journal for Jordan, starring Michael B. Jordan. And Shantae, I think is her name, played Dana, based on a real life story. This young lady, the real lady, she worked in the New York Times as an editor. Um, and like that's like a dream for all journalists to like work at the New York Times. And she had that dream job, but yet she was still dealing with a lot, and we'll get more into that in a minute. But she also serves now as the I forgot the proper title, but she's a big dog with Simon and Schuster, which is a publishing company for books. Okay, so I actually reviewed the movie. It's gonna be a spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to cut this off. If you're just curious and want to know and still gonna go watch it, feel free to tap in. But I said that it was an unexpected love. It was an unexpected love that created a life to continue on with living in the footsteps that trailed before it. So if you don't know, again, it's based on a true story. This lady met her husband unexpectedly, right? And well, not husband because they never got married. They had planned to get married, but she met the love of her life. She had maybe close to a year with this man, but so much happened in that year, and a new life was formed from this love story. Jordan, the baby boy, who the whole movie and her book, because she actually did write a book, is based on, right? And like seeing how this young man has been growing up through the film, it shows the importance of a father in a child's life, and more specifically, a black boy's life. All right. So, just a little bit about Dana. I had written or wrote that she was a hardworking black woman at the New York Times. Yes, she was still fighting, within the workplace. The opening scene, right, as she gets into her day at work. Um, she's walking through the office. Her boss is telling her, like, hey, I'm giving this story to such and such. It was a white male. That made me automatically think about all the things that black people and more so black women face in the corporate world, right? The white gentleman was not prepared. He lied saying that, hey, because when she posed the question to him, like, hey, like, what makes you think you can do this story? Like, what do you got set up that I don't? And he was saying that he had a meeting set up with the person already, but he lied because she kept asking questions and it made him nervous. So she brought it to the supervisor's attention, like, hey, like he's not even prepared. Why are you giving my story up? And a lot of black women actually face that because that supervisor who was white, they would more so they would want the young white male that praise versus the black woman. You know, a lot of things move at the strength and the at the smartness of black women, right? They're real logical, they're real organized, they're real hands-on. And she was doing all of that within the New York Times, but the supervisor was willing to get that away. Um, and I also want to know, like, how many black women are actually facing that now? But the movie, it goes back and forth between Dana and Charles, right? Speaking of Charles, they first met in her childhood home. She was visiting home during the holidays, I believe it was. And Charles was actually hanging up an art piece that he did for her father. They both served in the military, all right? So this, well, it wasn't the holidays, it was his birthday. So this art piece was for the father's birthday. It was a gift for the father. All right. So Dana walks in the house and sees this mystery man in the living room hanging up a photo or a drawing. And she's like, what's going on? He introduces himself. You know, she's taken aback because of how handsome the brother is. She goes to the back and it's like, hey, you know, Dad, who's that in there? And the dad, here's what blew my mind with that whole situation. The dad, you know, most dads are very protective of their daughters. This dad was more so willing to push her on to him, if you will, because he had said, like, hey, you know, he's single, you know, you should say this, say, you know, my sister needs to borrow my car. Can you give me a ride back to my hotel type? You know, so the pops was giving her a strategy on how to shoot her shot, right? And she was like, oh, Dad, I don't think I should do that. Da, da, da. Lo and behold, she didn't announce it, but she did go back in the house and did what her father had suggested her to do. Now, I thought that was cool because again, a lot of fathers don't want nobody, no matter how old they get for real, they don't want nobody tampering or messing with their baby girl. Although this woman was well and grown. All right, so you know, he gives her a ride back to the hotel. Charles is quiet in the car. She's like, "Oh, you don't talk much, do you?" And he's like, "Well, I do when I have something to say." And I think that's 100%. Like a lot of people do talk just to run their mouth, but he's like, "Yo, like I don't really say much unless I really got something to say." But it was just amazing to see, you know, that again with that father, like really push freely his daughter on to another man because fathers oftentimes want to be the one to take care of their daughters forever, right? And I think that's a great thing, but it also, with them not knowing that it's okay to let another man in, I think it leads that daughter to really super high expectations that makes them put a guy's face, or it helps them to put like their dad's face on their guy's body and expecting more dad-like things versus like not being an actual partner. That makes sense. They did a scene at the pool where Dana found out that Charles was going through a divorce. Okay. And he was saying how much Dana's parents helped him throughout that whole situation, saying how they were so kind to him, you know, said that your mother is a great listener. She listened to me. You know, your pops was helping me out in this way and that way. And then she was like, oh, that must be nice. This is when I knew it was about to get spicy because a lot of people from the outside looking in think that the family dynamic can be so perfect. All right. She was like, oh, but you didn't grow up with them. She said you ain't grow up with them. Like even at one point they were having dinner at the kitchen table. It was so joyous, right? It was Dana and her two siblings, brother and sister, and the mother. They were having a great time in the kitchen, preparing the kitchen table, so on and so forth. When the pops stepped in the room, you could hear a pin drop. It got so quiet. It's like the joy ran out of the room because of fear, right? You can tell that they were intimidated by this man, you know. And then after dinner, Dana stepped outside where her siblings were. The siblings were outside smoking a joint. Dana stepped out to get some fresh air. And it's like, what y'all doing back here? You know, mocking the father's voice, trying to catch the siblings in the act. And then she's like, yeah, what y'all doing out here though? She's like, same reason why you out here, to get away from the guy, right? And they were talking about as siblings, trying to understand why does mom stay when she's not happy. And it made me think too about how a lot of people stay in situations and relationships and marriages and so on and so forth because of certain reasons, right? Whether that be because to stay for the kids or because the financial situation is just amazing, right? They won't get that, or they think that they won't get that financial stability anywhere else, right? So they stay because of those specific reasons plus more. No matter how uncomfortable or how unhappy they may be, they choose to stay. And that's unfortunate because it's a whole life out here. You got a whole life to live still, to be putting your life in another person's hands like that, right? And a lot of people are scared to be alone. Like, did you know? Did you know we in a pandemic? You know what I'm saying? We got the Omicron or whatever going on, the different variants of coronavirus, right? But there's another epidemic, and it's called the epidemic of loneliness. Did you know that? That's a real thing. You can look that up. The epidemic of loneliness. A lot of people fear being alone. Like, you got the metaverse that's going on right now. You got NFTs. The whole world is like becoming digital, right? It's cool to learn. It's great to make money from it, but it's taking away a lot of like human touch. It's taking away a lot of like true, genuine interaction because of the like button, the love button, the share button, all of these things, right? People are lonely for real. You know, a virtual reality is not a real reality. Like, we want to shake hands, we want to give hugs, we want to verbally, from person to person say that I love you type situations. It's not the same when you're typing it. It's not even the same when you're on the phone. It's just something about that person to person. And a lot of this virtual reality is taken away from that. Granted, of course, again, a lot of money's being made. I'm glad that we're able to get to the bag, but what's more important? You know what I mean? I'm posing that question. I would love for y'all to answer that. Like, what's more important? I don't believe that there's a really such thing as a balance, but something needs to happen. One needs to weigh more than the other, in my opinion. Share if you think otherwise, okay? But there is a real epidemic of loneliness. But I want y'all to know, like, we don't have to be that way. All right. Fast forward to the connection between Dana and Charles. They hit it off rather quickly. Charles was intentional and Dana was receptive, and a new life was formed. All right. Dana lived in New York. Charles lived in, I forgot where they were actually from, but Charles lived away from there. But Charles began to visit Dana frequently, going on 6 months. You know, Charles finally had the gall to be like, yo, I want you to be my lady. You know what I mean? They did everything that a couple does, right? Even the first night. Granted, a lot of people know what they want. You know what I mean? Some girls, or some women rather, are afraid to kind of give themselves fully, physically, all of that, because they're afraid that the guy may judge them. She wanted it. Charles wanted it. She first initially wanted Charles to sleep on the couch, but then she was like, you can sleep on the other side of the bed if you want. Da, da, da. And of course, Charles accepted, the offer. And then as soon as they got in the bed, they exchanged kisses and whatnot. And then Dana was like, yo, I don't think we should do this. Gave my man blue balls. You know what I'm saying? But, lo and behold, they both wanted the situation to happen. But Dana, of course, and other women in that same situation, it's like, I want to keep this, I don't want judgment. to be passed on to me if I do this, right? Um, and I made a note. I said, I already said that. Some women, even if they want sex the first night, some hold out because they don't want their partner to think of them in any negative way. But a grown man wouldn't view it as negative at all. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like it makes me think of The Love Below with Andre 3000, where the woman is like, he gonna think I'm a hoe or something. He's like, I know she probably thinking that I think she's some hoe or something. Like, nah, she just know what she want out of life. Classic. If y'all don't know that, man, y'all need to go back and listen to The Love Below and Speaker Box with Outkast. But they went on to explore New York City, and although she liked Charles and his personality and everything, she looked at my guy's shoes. The shoes weren't busted, but they weren't the best shoes. So she was trying to hook my man up with some style and some fashion. And, women oftentimes enjoy a decent project, not something that has to be built from square one, if you will, but a woman loves to add to her man, right? And it's important that a man saves space, if you will, for that woman to do her add on, right? I think that's a love language for a lot of women. It's not necessarily one of the five love languages, if you will, but, you know, a woman being able to add to her guy, it brings a pride in that woman. You know what I mean? And it brings a pride in that man to be able to say, hey, I saved that space for her to be able to put more of herself in me and more of myself in her, because you're strong apart, but you're forced together. Like that's them coming collective as one, sharing that space in order to connect even more in their relationship, right? Um, and let's see. Oh, this is good. So after exploring the city, here's a couple of things and them spending time together. Here's what I thought and picked up that the two taught each other. I said that Charles was taught, or Dana taught Charles to be more considerate, to be more communicative, and to express. I said to express how? Through the journal for Jordan, right? If Dana didn't give Charles with the journal, Jordan wouldn't be who he has been growing to be through the guidance and wisdom of his father. I said that Charles taught Dana how to be more understanding through hard circumstance because Charles was in the army. So he had to be deployed. All right. So patience and all of that. So understanding through hard circumstance, preparation in case Charles died, which unfortunately he did. Spoiler alert. He died in combat. Okay. And he taught her how to see him different and not as her father. Because at one point they had a disagreement and he had to let her know, like, yo, I'm not your dad. Because Dana's childhood and upbringing, there was a different disappointment that her father brought on. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, and it's important for us guys to, because even I personally had to do that. Had to let someone like, yo, I'm not your dad. You know what I'm saying? I'm your guy. I'm not your dad. And that's what Charles had to do in this situation. Like, I am not your father. Like, let me be your man. Okay? I'm not going to disappoint you. You know what I mean? And if something does happen, we can communicate about it. I'm not going to run from the problem. We're going to run to it. Running from it would not save you anyway. Sweeping things under the bridge, under the rug is not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing to do. All right? And I talked about that too. Women putting their father's face on their partner and expect disappointment because a lot of people actually do love. I don't want to say love. That's a strong word. A lot of people are so familiar with dysfunction that they just they force themselves and convince themselves that they can't live without it in their partnerships, right? But the toxicity we can live without. And dysfunction we can't so much, but the toxicity we can. We can minimize the dysfunction and not expect it so much, but then when it arrives, okay, we can handle it as pure adults. All right. And what I like and what I appreciate what Charles did, Charles wanted to assure and reassure that Dana had nothing to worry about. That also is a love language, being able to assure and reassure. Okay. Let's see. I did write a lot, but I don't want to sit here and read all of it. Let's see. Oh, speaking of Jordan, Jordan was the kid that came out of the whole situation from the two lovebirds. Okay, and I said that I think worry is what escalated Dana's decision into wanting to have a baby by Charles because of the deployment. Understanding the lifestyle of a soldier, she wanted a piece of Charles to be with her always, and for Charles to have a legacy in case anything did happen to him. As Jordan grew older, he storms in his room, and Dana opens the door to see a black eye. Jordan got bust in the face. Jordan was picked on because of the color of his skin. He was very, very light skinned. Neither Charles or Dana were like that light skinned, but he was very light skinned. All right. And he was talked about and picked on because he wasn't quote unquote black enough, whatever that is supposed to mean, right? That's when Dana knew it was time to give Charles' journal to him, and what an introduction it was. Okay. After Dana gifted Charles with the journal, Charles began to write and express more of himself because he was like, "What am I to write?" And Dana said, "Tell him everything. Tell him, let him teach him you. Tell him everything about you and what it means to be a man." So Charles wrote that in these journals, and what an introduction that was, right? It immediately let Jordan know who he was, and as he continued to read this journal and learn more about his dad and mirror his ways so much that over time, all Dana could do was smile and reminisce. Because even after the first night that Dana and Charles spent together, Charles was up early in the morning doing push-ups. Dana woke up to him doing push-ups, and then she was like, "I ain't even had my coffee yet." She was like, "Oh, coffee is right there." The coffee was right beside on the nightstand of the bed. So that was, Buddy got some, what it is, brownie points. Got some cool points for that. And as Jordan read his father's journal, he began to do push-ups in the morning. He began to get up early, modeling after his dad. Again, going back to the importance of how we live as men, and if you're a father, how we live as fathers, because the kids, matter your kids or not, are going to model, right? They're going to model everything that you do. They're going to say a lot of what you say. All right. So be mindful of that. Be considerate of that. Jordan, as he got older, set up a trip to DC to get closure for him, but more importantly for his mom. And I thought that was powerful. Jordan was a smart kid because he gathered all of his mother's friends and father's friends, and the family did not. Well, the family did receive an American flag after the soldier passed, but he was also able to get another flag for his mom, and then the mom actually gifted it back to Jordan. And I thought that was dope. So much more to process and unpack about the film. Even the African American art, there was so much different nostalgic art pieces in this film. They had the landline in there on the phone. Shorty had the Mr. Potato Head t-shirt on. When the last time you seen anything dealing with Mr. Potato Head? Like they had the Nokia, the green screen Nokia that you played Snake on back in the day. The pajamas, right? Let's see what else I had on here. It was a lot, but many life lessons in this film, and I look forward to seeing it again. This ain't one of them joints that you only see once. This the type of film. This type of film is school for life type work. Charles wrote about love, life, identity, beauty, etc., giving keys to Jordan so that he opens up the right doors. Dana even wrote the book to give Jordan more keys so that Jordan could open up the right doors. I think that's every parent's dream, to give their kids some sound advice and hope their kids take it and run with it. They documented and molded Jordan's life while still allowing Jordan to be Jordan. A moral compass in literature form. Okay. Like, how many parents have actually documented and written things out for their kid to live life by? Right? We have our Bibles for those who believe in that sort of thing. And we look to that Bible for instruction, for guidance, for wisdom, for love, for reassurance, and all these things. How many parents have actually written things out for their kid to go back and read. Because a lot of times when parents are talking to their child, it can come off as being a fuss box or fussing a lot, right? And we don't receive that well. But when things are written, a lot of things are oftentimes written in love. So Dana wrote the book about their story, and Charles wrote the journal about his life experiences and all of these things, right? And one thing about love, talking about all about love, Charles had written, Jordan, hey, when you find love, you know, love somebody who's not asking you to be more than what you are. And love them for being who they are. That's not like really verbatim about how he said it was so profound. I really want y'all to see this movie though, because there was a lot of mental shampoo in that movie. And again, it's based on a true story, which makes it even more, which helps it to resonate even the more. Okay, but that's really all I had to talk about. This is kind of impromptu, but I think it was pretty good. I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't started out this year with a book, this would be a great book for you to read. All About Love by Bell Hooks. God Bless Those Who Rest. And A Journal for Jordan. If you're a parent, get you a journal. Start jotting down your experiences in life. Start jotting down some of the things that you want your kids to learn. Because again, seeing how Jordan reacted and responded to the things that his father wrote says a lot in his actions. Because he's acting just like his dad from the writings. All right? Heavy. Okay, that's all I got. It's Key Marcane coming to you all the way live, your favorite country cousin, your favorite Mississippian, and your best friend. Happy New Year's 2022. Make this year one of the best years of your life. All right? And we'll see y'all on the